which means that we can assign values to these particular parameters when they're running. If you look to the bottom of the screen there, you can see the parameter values table, and each of the corresponding columns is first, last, email, which is what the @ indicate at the top of that step 6. We've got 2 iterations there within the parameter values table, and we'll see why that we have the 2 iterations a little bit later. Moving down here, we go to step 9. We can see that there's an expected result. That receipt number must appear at the top of the confirmation page. There's a checkbox next to that so that we know that there's a particular criteria that we need to satisfy. So moving on to the next tab is the test, which is where we would execute the particular test. And we can see that the layout is very similar to the previous tab. There's the test suite with the requirements on the left-hand side, and clicking on the requirements we can open up the tests that are stored within that particular requirement. So this is the test that we saw in the previous tab, so I'm going to go ahead and run this particular test. Clicking on Run opens up Test Runner, which is kind of the way in which we can see the test steps on one side and see the application under test on the other side, so we don't have to constantly flick between windows. This Start Test Overwrite Existing Action Recording. I've run this previously, so I'm going to overwrite the particular recording that's already there to demonstrate the recording feature, and then I'm going to press Start so that we can begin to run the test. Once the initialization has occurred, we're ready to run the test. So we just run through a typical manual test like you would normally expect. Open that particular website. So I'm going to go and open Internet Explorer and paste the particular value within the address space there. So that website is opened up, and that means that we can pass that test. That's a simple case of pressing Control, Window and Q, so that we don't have to particularly jump from one window to another. We can just use that hotkey and it speeds up the process in general. So moving on to the next step there was click Model Airplane, which has passed. And the next step is to click on the Northwind Trader plane. So once that's occurred, that test has passed, so we can view the page and we can click to add that to a cart. So that step has passed. So you can see it's very normal manual functional test steps running through the process, user acceptance testing type of tool that we're using here. Moving on to step 6 now. We can see in the test runner that there's the parameters that we added and the values of those parameters, and on the right hand side is the application under test with the corresponding text fields. So what I need to do here is I need to bind the particular parameters to the text field so that the recording knows where to put the particular values that are stored in those parameters. And what I'm doing here is I'm just pressing Control V, typical paste shortcut there. And if you look on the left-hand side, you can see at the bottom of that particular step it's saying 2 of 8 parameters bound. So as they're being copied and pasted into these particular fields, the parameters are being bound to those particular text fields. And the database symbol as well is appearing next to the values. This also works with drop-down boxes, so putting in there the values of those parameters, storing those for the next run, which we will see shortly. Just go ahead and enter the postal code there. So that step has passed. We'll move on to the review order, which has also passed. So just a quick view of the content on that page, and then click Place Order. So now that we've run up to this point, we can see the expected result has appeared on that particular test step. So receipt number must appear at the top of the confirmation page, which it has. We can see the number across the top right hand side there next to receipt. That test has passed. Close the browser, and we're ready to move on to the next iteration. So I'm going to press the end iteration and move to next iteration hyperlink, which is underneath the test steps. So it's asking me if I want to overwrite the existing recording. I've just recorded it and I'm happy with the recording I did, so I'm happy to overwrite the existing recording that was there previous to running that first test. Collecting information for the first test, and now again we have the overwrite the existing action recording. Now I don't want to overwrite the one I've just saved, I just want to go straight to start test. So again, after initializing, we can see that we're back with the manual tests, which, under normal circumstances I would have to run again. But instead what I can do is I can highlight a selection of particular test steps that I've run, and I can click the play button up here. Now this will move far faster, I think, than the feed will allow us to see. So you'll have to, if you can't see a great deal, it's because it's running through so quickly. The playback, the action recording is in progress. So it's running through those 5 test steps very, very quickly, and saving up to the point of the 6th step. Okay, so the 6th step here is the same parameters, but this time it's got the different values stored within the left-hand side. And because the values are, or the parameters are bound to a particular text field, the recording knows where to put the particular values that are stored in that parameter. So when I go and play, it'll run very quickly again. You probably see the text fields being filled in automatically there. So I know that that everything's correct here. I've run this before. I know that test steps are correct. So without having to run through the steps that are unimportant quickly, possibly make a mistake along the way, I can just rely on the recording to run up to the step that I need to get to, which confirms whether the test is going to pass or not. So I'm just going to highlight steps 7 to 9 and run through them quickly. So the expected result has appeared. Expected receipt number must appear at the top of the confirmation page, and we can see again that a receipt number has appeared at the top. So I'm happy to go ahead and pass that. I'm passing that a different way this time. Instead of using the shortcut, I'm just using this drop-down box, which shows you the shortcuts, but shows you can pass or fail a particular step. And then close the browser and end the iteration for that particular test. So it collects the information. I want to go ahead and save and close this particular test runner session. And now we're back to the testing tab. So there's the click receipt number test that we've just run there. I can view the results if I want to. Loads up information, for example, with the run type, who it was run by, the configuration, how many iterations were passed, any notes that were added, maybe, the duration, so we've got an idea of how long it takes to run through that test. The test steps as well, which ones were passed, see the expected result, and some attachments there which are used for the recordings, and any other diagnostic information that I would want to pass to a developer if the if a bug was raised. So that was a demonstration of the test manager there. So I'm going to go back and move back to the PowerPoint. If you bear with me. Okay, so we should be back, everyone should be back on the full screen with the PowerPoints for the agenda. Okay, so moving on now to the Lab Manager. First, I want to talk about the SCVMM, the System Center Virtual Machine Manager, and Hyper-V. System Center Virtual Machine Manager and Hyper-V are 2 underlying technologies that are required to provide the testers with virtual environments so that they can create and deploy within Microsoft Test Manager. We're going to be going through quite a bit of theory, so if it passes you by here, I'm going to be showing you a demo as to what these tools are and